exactly to do this tax cut extension.
All right, let me bring in Congressman Schock right now. He's joining us from Peoria, Illinois. Congressman, I know you're a rising star among the young leadership in the Republican Party right now. If it came down to a vote during the lame duck session to extend the Bush-era tax cuts for everyone, middle class and wealthy, for 2 years, but only for 2 years, would you vote yes?
I certainly would vote yes, and I think not only would the majority of Republicans vote yes, but I think Democrats would vote yes as well. Before we adjourned for the election season, 38 House Democrats came out and publicly said they were breaking with Speaker Pelosi and were going to side with the Republican alternative, which was a full extension at all the current rates, despite the President and the Speaker of the House at that time advocating for an extension for everyone but the top income earners. Those 38 House Democrats, along with the Republicans, recognize that a large percentage of those top income earners are precisely the small business people that we're hoping that will lead us out of the recovery. So I think if that were the only vote on the table, I think not only would Republicans vote for it, but an overwhelming of the Democrats would as well.
Well, here's the other option, and tell me if you would vote yes for this. Permanently extending the Bush tax cuts for 98% of the American public, the middle class, everyone earning under $250,000 a year, for joint filers, $200,000 a year for single filers. Make that permanent. But for the 2% above that, those making more than $250,000 a year, extending the current rates for a year or two. Would you be willing to go along with that?
Well, look, I'm willing to negotiate. Let me say that. And I think most of the Republicans on our side of the aisle are willing to negotiate with the president. But at the end of the day, we don't believe that raising taxes on any American right now is a smart thing to do. And as I say, this isn't just a Republican philosophy. When you have 38 House Democrats, you only need 40 to buck the current Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And I would argue that if we don't do it before January 1, we'll certainly do it after January 1, because come next week, over 90 new congressmen are showing up in Washington, D.C. for their freshman orientation, and I would bet that not only are the Republicans, but even the Democrats in that freshman class even more committed to stopping any potential increase in the income tax.
Do you consider yourself, Congressman, a Tea Party member?
Well, you know, I'm one of these guys who was in Congress before the Tea Party started, so I'm serving my second term now. You know, I always got a little nervous when they said throw the bums out, because I had to look in the mirror and say, well, gee, you know, I'm one of the younger ones, but I don't know if that qualifies me for one of the bums, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the Tea Party universally across the country is focused on one issue: spending and debt. And I think, again, the Republicans and the Democrats who were elected last cycle come to Washington, D.C., concerned about the rising debt facing the country, concerned about the lack of economic growth and the economic malaise, if you will, that's set in. And so that's what they're going to be focused on. So if you ask me, are you concerned about spending and debt and are going to try and spend the next 2 years tackling that, and those are the focuses of the Tea Party movement, then I guess I qualify. But I didn't receive their endorsement, and I didn't really run on that platform because, as I say, I was already an incumbent.
Congressman, Gloria and David both have questions for you. Gloria first.
Congressman, I just wanted to ask you about this notion of letting this slide until January. My colleague David Gergen says that would be suicidal. But I think I heard you say, well, we're going to have more votes in January, so why not wait and then we can do what we really want to do? Is that a really possible scenario for you, to just wait and make them retroactive, the tax cuts?
Well, let's face it, the House Democrats a year ago and the Senate Democrats were committed to taking action on the estate tax. Both chambers, both leaders, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, said under no circumstances would they allow the estate tax to go to zero. And despite the rhetoric, the reality is the estate tax is now at 0% for this year because they failed to take action. So I don't think you should suggest that, you know, for anyone to say this isn't going to happen, you know, in politics, the minute you say something's not going to happen, it will. But to answer your question, I favor passing something now because I truly believe that capital is sitting on the sidelines, that small business people are not making decisions about investing and hiring and expanding because they don't know what the tax environment's going to be.
Congressman, just yesterday, the co-chairs of the President's Deficit Commission came out and said, look, as we come out of this recovery a couple of years from now, the 800-pound gorilla is the debt. And we've got to come up with a plan to do that. And they proposed that we cut $2 in spending for every $1 in tax increases. And the question for Republicans is, are you willing to have any tax increases as part of a deficit reduction program long-term after we get back on the road to recovery?
Well, David, I would say this. I think it's early to start to speculate on what we're going to do in 2 years. First of all, who the Congress will be, who the president will be in 2 years. What I will tell you today
votes in this next
Republicans today are committed to ensuring that no American receive a tax increase now. I think we're going to have bipartisan support to ensure that. And the more important thing is, what are we going to do to start reining in the deficits? And you can argue that we need to raise taxes. I would argue that job one is to find cuts. I'm encouraged by the Deficit Commission's recommendations, although many of the members on that Deficit Commission have not had the opportunity to weigh in. Guys like Dave Camp, who are going to be the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, the Tax Writing Committee, has yet to be able to weigh in. This is really a proposal brought forward by the Republican and Democratic chairman. And for any of that proposal to make it to the House floor, 14 of the 18 members have to support it. And I haven't heard any one of the 18, other than the Republican and Democrat chairman, endorse this proposal. So when they talk about rolling back domestic spending to 2010 levels, House Republicans said, look, we want to roll back domestic spending to 2008 levels, which will save over $1 trillion.
But you're
let's start cutting. Let's start.
Hold on, because we're totally out of time. But Congressman Schock, I want to thank you for coming in. We're going to continue this conversation. We have a lot to discuss. Now we know why a lot of Republicans see you as a rising star in the GOP in the House. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf.
And thanks to Gloria and David, as usual, as well. She calls it Obamacare, and now Sarah Palin is alleging